This is a good book.
It is a really good book. Shout out Emma. She recommended this book to me.
Shout out Emma, yes.
And it is good. This is the first hockey book that I have liked.
Oh my God,
Because I didn't like poking around and I didn't like Baggy the Blue Liner.
Yeah. That book was so fucking unforgettable. You couldn't even remember the name of it.
Literally.
Last week and just dropped it yesterday.
Literally. I was telling Nick about our books.
No,
and
you weren't.
Also he asked what the name of our podcast is.
And you told him?
I had to tell him.
Did he turn red?
Yes.
Yes, you did.
Yeah. And then I told him about the books. And when I said the names, he laughed.
Do you think that he'll listen to it?
So he was looking for some hockey books for his kids. He's
no.
They're not kid friendly.
No.
Like, no, I don't know of any hockey kid friendly books.
No,
I love searching hockey books. I can picture him and he's like, oh, fucking around. This sounds good. And then
oh no, it's not Nick. Don't do that.
No.
Well, I was re-listening to our Phantasma episode.
Yeah. And you love it even more?
Yeah.
I'm telling you, that was the one that I couldn't stop thinking about it.
We've been talking about our next book, and I've been like, no, it has to be smut. It can't be a book with spice. It can't be a book with smut. It has to be like a smutty book. And I think I'm going to redact on that.
Okay.
I think that if we wanted to do the one, what did your friend recommend?
Oh, Twisted Games.
Okay. So if we have a request for Twisted Games, I feel like we should do it.
Yeah.
It's not quite, but I'm going to go into it with more realistic expectations than I went.
And I feel like that's an enemies to lovers.
Oh, okay.
Which is up my alley. That's what I look for.
Okay. S. Massery has a book called The Pucking Coach's Daughter.
Shit.
Do you think that that's a better version of Bagging the Blue Liner?
Maybe. I'll read that.
Let me tell you, S. Massery can fucking write.
Yes.
I was hooked on this book.
Me too.
Such a fan. Yeah. All right. Well, I'm Amanda.
I'm Nicole.
And we are Book Sluts. We read, recap, and review smutty books. Let us help you decide if this is a book you should keep on your TBR. What book are we reading today?
We are reading Brutal Obsession by S. Massery.
Trigger warnings on this book. Our author, Sarah, notes this is her darkest book to date. Bully romance, blood knife play, dubious consent, breath play, consensual non-consent, primal play, and mental, physical, emotional bullying. And this is a book that I would just preface by saying this is a dark fucking book. He is dark. She is a little dark.
Yes.
And when they say breath play, they mean full-blown breath play. I'm going to gloss over it because it was triggering for me. So not like...
You don't get triggered, so that shows.
Yeah. I don't like spiral when I trigger. It makes me kind of breathe heavy and sweat. So I will say that I am somebody who likes to be choked.
Yeah.
But like side of the neck choking.
Yeah.
I don't like windpipe choking.
Yes.
And that is kind of what we see in this book. So just a heads up on that. We open with Grayson. Grayson is driving drunk and he crashes his car into another car and has the very drunk, borderline incoherent woman with him take the fall while he flees the scene. And 2 hours later, the cops show up and he's arrested. And the whole point of this scene is to reinforce the power and wealth that Grayson has. This is not new money. This is old money. This is old power. This is hookers and blow on the front lawn on a Sunday afternoon kind of money.
Yeah, his dad is a senator. They can make anything go away.
Yeah. And he really, goes into detail about how he has been trained to smile and put on a mask so that people trust him because, trust and likability combined with money and power is like an unstoppable thing. And he learned it all from his dad. And it's all very, This is a good way for us to get to know him.
He reads as a sociopath.
He
Like, he is
it
putting on a mask and tormenting people behind the
She
scenes.
calls him a psychopath
Yeah.
at some point, like, while they're having sex at one point. Like, because he is absolutely. 6 months later, and we meet Violet, and she is returning home after an accident. Presumably, she was the car that Grayson hit. So that is what happened, but they don't outright say that, but we can all surmise that. She comes home to a surprise party that her friend Willow is throwing for her. And I don't talk a ton about Willow, but she plays a big part in the book. She is a constant in Violet's life, and she is a very, very, very like a ride or die good
I
friend.
was just gonna say she's a ride or die best friend. They've known each other since high school, and Willow is there for her even, like, through tough things. She's one of the only people Violet lets see her in the hospital. When she's having problems with her mom, Violet is there.
Mhm.
Violet's her person.
Yeah. I think sometimes, like, when we have best friends in books, the girls are like either codependent or their relationship feels very surface level. And for me, the way that the relationship is written is very healthy.
I
So
agree.
we learn right away at the beginning of this party that right before this accident, and sort of as a result of the accident, Violet had just broken up with her boyfriend, Jack. And then once she was in the hospital, she continued to kind of push away from him and isolate because he's still trying to rekindle their relationship.
And he's like a star football player. She was a dancer. They're the
Mhm.
perfect couple, and she even mentions that people would always say how good looking they were,
Mhm.
and she said that that was really a reflection of her because she is that stereotypical blonde hair, blue eyes.
Dance girl.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you want to give the physical description of Violet?
Violet has blonde hair, blue eyes. She now has side-swept bangs, and they're covering a scar from the accident. She is She's thin, but a little curvier. She's put on some weight since the accident. She doesn't have any muscles at the moment, and she's short. She's a small dancer
Mhm.
girl.
She's
Ballet.
petite. Yeah, she's very petite. Violet describes herself a lot in this book in terms of pre and post accident. She was, prior to the accident, on the dance team at Crown Point University, and she was also part of a ballet company. And she feels like pre accident, she was sparkly dance team Violet, but now she's been washed in gray, which is an appropriate way to describe herself.
Yeah, I really like that she's gotten a little darker since the accident because I think especially she could have really stayed almost like she's putting on a front, which
Mhm.
she describes a lot that she didn't realize she was doing before.
Mhm.
And now she's becoming more herself. And
Yes.
she's always kind of been this dark person
Yeah.
that the accident and everything helped her realize.
Yeah. It
I
kind of,
really liked Violet.
I did too. I loved Violet. I related to Violet a lot. I think it also reinforces what a great friend that Willow is because Violet is going through this like cleansing of this past life and this life that Willow has always known of her. And Willow still stays her friend and is super supportive and wonderful. So we learned that after the accident, she has a substantial scar on her leg that she is very self conscious about.
I'm
And
picturing something like really horrific.
me
Like,
too. She says that a plastic surgeon was in the surgery when she had it operated on, and that the scar would be almost unnoticeable from certain angles, but that it basically runs up the line of the front of her, like almost up the front of her shin. So I think it kind of blends in with that shin
yeah,
bone, but is still pretty gnarly. She is definitely still dealing with some PTSD around cars. And she also doesn't remember the details of the night of the accident. So she doesn't remember anything leading up to the accident. Her friends decide that they're going to take her out to a popular college bar in hopes of avoiding the chaos of the post hockey game celebrations, but they don't leave the bar in time. The team shows up, and who else is their new star player? None other than Grayson. Grayson is nothing if not a predator. He has the audacity to be mad at Violet because of the accident and some of the little hiccups that he had to experience as a result of it.
Yeah, he feels like she ruined his life. Sir, take accountability. But I feel like it's
Mm,
such a thing that a guy like that would say.
yeah, absolutely. And it's wild because we are getting his perspective.
Yeah.
So we're like getting a little glimpse in the mind of this psychopath. And it's wild the mental gymnastics that he goes through to like find all of the ways that he's mad at her. And throughout this whole book, the things that he does to her, the things that he thinks of it's fucking wild to
He
me.
ruined her life. And now he needs to ruin her life some more
Mhm.
to get back at her for apparently ruining his life.
Mhm.
Even though he is a star hockey player, he had no consequences, but somehow
Yeah.
those 6 months of his life were a little bit hard. Now he sets out to destroy her life.
At one point in time, she says, "Are you going to break me again?" And he says, "Oh, I'm not going to break your body. I'm going to break your mind."
Out, I just it makes me so mad
Yeah.
because I feel like this is what some of these men actually think, and I think we're kind of seeing that now with some of these pics that they feel like, "Oh, these minors ruined their life."
Mm, yeah.
It makes me so mad. Fucking
Yeah.
Matt Gates.
I love that you're mad about it.
I
Wow.
am.
Be mad, babe. I love a mad lady. He follows her to the bathroom, corners her, and threatens to ruin her life. And my note here is just so yuck.
Yeah.
Yuck.
And it's funny because the second book, there's a disclaimer that the main character is not a good guy. And there's
Mm,
not a disclaimer here, but I really didn't like him for at least half the book.
yeah, I don't really ever grow to like him,
Of
to
course
be
you don't.
honest. The one thing that I will say is that I don't like when they put a picture of a person on the cover of a book,
I know.
but the guy on the cover of this book,
Agreed. So fucking hot.
oh my God. I was like,
That's
wow.
basically what I pictured.
Yeah, yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
His abs were like, I don't even like abs. I don't even know why. I was like squirming about them.
Yes, he looks like a jock, which is also not my type, but
Yeah,
Jesus,
yeah, it
he's a
was,
sexy fucking man.
he really was. A video of Violet from the night that they went out to the bar has gone viral on campus, including being uploaded to the school's main intranet page. And in the video, Violet is making out with and then sucking the dick of her ex boyfriend outside of the bar. She is mercilessly harassed about it all day. And when she approaches Jack about it, he shames
He's
her.
mad at her. Out this fuck this guy.
Mhm.
He blames her for embarrassing him.
Mhm.
When it clearly, they say in the video, clearly she was too drunk to even know what
Yeah.
was going on.
She doesn't even remember it. Yeah.
And he has the audacity to be mad at her.
Yeah.
Sir. But I do love this part. We get a cute little Willow here
Mhm.
because
Yeah.
Willow is up in arms trying
Yeah.
to get this video taken down. And she's just pissed because basically at IT, they just kind of brush it off.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
Willow is not stopping.
Mhm.
So I love that she didn't even tell Violet about it.
Yeah.
Willow's just like, "I'm fucking taking care of this."
Yeah,
We love
absolutely.
Willow. We stand
I
Willow.
We stan Willow, absolutely. I wonder if Willow has her own book.
That's a good question.
We should look into
I
that.
bet she does.
I would be mad at people being mean to her, though.
Maybe she's the dark one.
Ooh, where she's mean to somebody
Yeah,
else? Oh, I love that.
right? She gets like a little
Okay.
puppy that she
S.
breaks.
Massery, if you could, could you pair up Willow with a golden retriever, please?
Yeah. Please and thank you.
Mhm. Violet decides to retreat to the comfort of her apartment, and she discovers that it has been broken into and her room has been ransacked. And there is red paint all over all of her belongings and the word whore painted in red paint on her wall. Grayson, from his perspective, is coordinating attacks on Violet. However, with his team, he is acting contrite and feigning innocence. Despite that, he's getting worked up over the idea of other guys on his team messing with her and scheming on his next attack. He convinces his friend Knox to pursue Willow in an effort to separate the women and get easier access to Violet to break her.
This was so devious and calculated
Yep.
because Knox says you're never going to get Willow alone.
Mhm.
Because he says his plan is to turn everyone against Violet. And Knox is like, Willow will always be there. They've been friends since high school. So then he asks Knox to get some attention to Willow so that she
Yep.
leaves Violet alone. This book could have gotten real dark.
The way that his brain works is
Mhm.
absolutely fucking
Like when I
wild.
hate somebody, I still don't want them to have no one. And
Right.
he,
You still have some level of like compassion and empathy that
yeah,
exists in you.
and he
Yes.
doesn't.
He does not at all.
He completely lacks that. And
Yeah.
we really see that there.
Yeah.
And also, fuck you, Knox.
Oh my God, I know, right?
If Willow and Knox get a book, fuck
No.
that.
No.
No.
Fuck that. No. So Knox agrees to Grayson's plan and they bet on first to fail. So they're basically trying to make the girls fall in love without falling in love themselves. While getting drinks with Willow, Violet spots Grayson across the bar and decides that she's going to confront him.
Violet's not scared.
No.
Violet's not going down without a fight. And I think that's what makes this book work because Violet is a very strong personality.
Yeah.
So Grayson is not going to easily break her.
Well, can you imagine? So this woman was the lead dancer in Swan Lake for a not necessarily a big ballet studio, but a a big enough ballet studio for it to be a big deal.
Right.
And she's been in this horrific accident. She's been in and out of surgeries for 6 months. She had
She
to
still has pain. She
she's
has residual nerve pain.
still dealing with pain. She had to take a break from school. She's going through all of these things. Now this video gets leaked. Now somebody breaks into her apartment. And like if this book had ended with her staying home that night, I would have been like, yeah, that tracks.
Yes.
You
Yeah,
know?
but she's such a strong person.
Yeah.
She's a great character and I love her.
I know, I do too. She decides to confront Grayson, and he gets the best of her by referring to her as a gimp and pouring a beer over her head in front of everybody in the bar. The thing is that Knox has already started to work on Willow. So she turns around and Knox is chatting up Willow and like Violet doesn't know what's going on. She just thinks Knox is like a nice
Yeah.
guy chatting up her best friend and doesn't want to ruin her best friend's night. So she's like, I'm just going to go home. And I can completely relate and sympathize to being like, everything is so dark. I don't want to keep bringing the people that I love into all of my like sad feelings.
Right, like, how much can I it's like when I
Yeah.
have to hear about the same bad day that Dave has,
Yes.
but these are all different bad days,
I know.
and she can't help it. It's not like she's trying, she's confronting him,
Yeah.
and it's not like she can do anything about it, and then we know that Willow and Knox had hooked up while Violet was in the hospital,
Mhm.
so knows Willow has a crush, and she's, such a good friend.
I know.
But
Yeah.
what a terrible feeling, because I think also that girl Paris, who is her rival and now trying to take her spot on the dance team, is there and
Yeah.
just being awful.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely. Violet decides that she's going to leave the bar on her own and she's going to head home. But while on the way home, she is essentially attacked by Grayson. He comes up behind her, covering her mouth and pinching her nose, and he pushes her up against the side of a building and tells her he wants her fear. He holds her there while he fingers her until she comes, and then he licks his fingers clean.
it
It's such a good
it was sexy. It really was. I don't like breath play. Violet does. So
There are a couple of things it's very clear that Violet likes. She likes breath play,
Mhm.
she likes pain, and she likes voyeurism.
Yes. She likes a little blood too. So she likes this, which is why I could get on board with it. Because I've read some books where they like don't know and it's a little scary. But this she was pretty fucking turned on.
Yeah, she really was. She's battling with herself about it. She hates him. He hates her. For 3/4 of this book, he talks about how much he hates her.
But
She
he's
talks about how
obsessed with her.
yes. Yes.
Obsessed.
From here on out, Grayson's obsession with Violet begins to really take root. He is intrigued by her response to him accosting her. He attacked her not expecting her to like it. And so when she does, it fucks with him.
He cannot
Which is
handle it.
honestly Violet's best fucking revenge.
Yeah.
If you were going to give any kind of revenge, it would be that you would not respond the way that he thinks that you're going to. Because this fucking guy thinks that he knows it all. So despite the fact that he's obsessed with her, he's still harboring all these ill feelings. And he corners her in the library and demands that she comes to his game that night, and is confused when she accuses him of breaking into her room. So now we know that he is not the culprit who destroyed her room. She agrees that she'll go to the game, but will only meet him afterwards if he wins. So this is our very, very first challenge that she issues to Grayson.
I liked that she did that.
Oh,
Because it
yeah.
kind of shows she's playing with him too.
Mhm.
He thinks he has the upper hand. He thinks he's going to have the
Mhm.
last word and be like, "You are coming to my game." And she's like, only if you win." He has
Because
to win.
the thing is that she feels in the back of her mind, she's like, I don't have a choice.
Yeah.
She knows that she's on
They're
recording.
breaking into her room. I mean, if he wanted to get to her, because she doesn't believe that he didn't do it. So she thinks he could just kind of break in whenever he wants and take it if
Uh,
he says no.
So this is her way of kind of taking control of the attacks, basically. Well, they do win the game, and Grayson has concocted a plan to get Violet to discuss the accident in front of another player on the team whose name is Steele, thereby breaking her NDA. He has it on video. He tells her that he won't share the video that breaks her NDA if she agrees to sucking Steele's dick. This entire plan he says, is to push her to see how far she will go to protect herself.
Yeah. I think he wants to see what he can get her to do too.
Sure, like testing her
And
limits.
humiliate. I think he wanted to humiliate her here.
Oh, God, yeah, absolutely, yeah. And it's interesting because we get his point of view here, and
She
I
was a queen.
she was an absolute queen. So she's down on her knees in front of Steele, and she looks back. She's got Steele's dick is out of his pants in her hands. She looks back at him and she says, having regrets, Devereaux, which is his last name. And it's such a fucking power
Yeah.
move because he is.
Yes.
He is having regrets.
Yes.
I did not like this scene because we did not get it from her point of view.
I know. But we saw Grayson describes how she's behaving. She asked Steele if he was okay with this.
Sure.
She's really put on a show sucking that dick.
Mhm.
Because apparently in that video that everybody saw,
Mhm.
she has skills
Sure.
and she's licking her lips, she's moaning,
Yeah.
she's making that eye contact. She's
Yeah.
looking like she's really enjoying this.
Yeah.
And so is Steele, which just pisses off
Yes.
Grayson. And
Yeah.
I did like this little rivalry.
Yeah. This was really great. So Grayson is getting all worked up, but he's not quick enough. So before he can stop it, Steele comes
In her
in
mouth.
her mouth. And P.S., she doesn't swallow it. She spits it out.
Yes.
Which I
Queen.
also was like, fucking queen. Yeah. And he kicks Steele out, and then he forces Violet to suck his dick. And in the scene, there is some breath play where he's like holding her nose while his dick is all the way in the
Choking
back of
her.
in the back of her throat. And he finishes on her face and tells her that Steele's dick will be the last dick she'll ever touch that isn't his. And I also think it's important to note that he does not participate in aftercare here. He cleans himself up and literally throws the towel at her, and it's disgusting.
It really is. It's an interesting scene because you can kind of see that she's really gotten under his skin. It says he hates her, is being really mean to her. He's so obsessed.
He's unraveling a little.
Yeah.
Yeah, which again is 100% Violet is the thing is that Violet is not as calculated as he is.
Right.
So from her point of view, we never get her. We do a little bit later where we start to get some of the calculation, but at this point in the book, it's not calculated. She's just kind of winging it. And she is like, without even thinking about it, absolutely ruining him. And
Yes.
once she's thinking about it, it just gets it
Well,
she
he was brought up and taught to be this way,
Mm.
and now he's fucking with this poor girl who's just been a star dancer her whole life, and she's really thinking on her feet. I'm
Yeah.
just so proud of her.
Yeah, I know, me too. I really love Violet. We keep saying that, but I just can't underscore it enough.
I think it's because of how much we hated Hannah and
It
begging the
it
liner.
very well could be.
We
When
hated
I think back to that episode where I was reading the bio from that author and she was like where she writes these strong heroines, and I was thinking to myself like, this is a strong heroine.
yes.
Just because you have somebody who is, and this is coming from somebody who is incredibly outspoken and absolutely does not go with the grain of everybody else's expectations of me. Just because you have somebody who is loud and outspoken does not make them a strong person.
No.
Violet is a really good example of somebody who has experienced incredible hardship and has just experienced some of the most devastating things and scary things and still comes out on top in the
Yeah.
end. And yeah.
Because for somebody who really has had not necessarily an easy life, but this is the first really bad thing that's happened to her, and she is still being so strong
Yeah.
and trying to stay on top as much as she can.
Yeah. I think it is important that we note too, like Violet doesn't come from money necessarily. Her dad died. There was a small trust that he left to her and her mother, but we'll get to her mom a little bit later. Her relationship with her mother is not great. She describes, that's not in my notes, but she describes at one point kind of following her mom around and picking up the bits and pieces of her that she kind of leaves behind, hoping that her mom will come to Violet to retrieve them, which she never does. And Violet kind of feels like she's one of those bits and pieces that her mom has left behind. So she definitely has had a different upbringing than Grayson. So we're not talking about two very privileged, wealthy people. We're
No.
talking about a middle class, like suburban woman and a upper 1% man.
Well, we
So
find out too, Violet says throughout kind of the whole book, she keeps calling her mom. It goes straight to voicemail. She doesn't talk to her mom since her mom dropped her off at school.
yeah.
And this all happens over months.
Mhm.
So, and her mom's just not speaking to her.
Yeah, her mom basically once her meal ticket with Violet and the dancing kind of went out the window with the accident, she just sort of abandoned Violet. Violet's having a hard time with what she did. So, in the moment, I think she was feeling super empowered, and she gets home and she's feeling really gross, which is my biggest gripe with it not being from her POV. Because at least if it had been from her POV in the moment, I would have had that like satisfaction of knowing that she was enjoying it, which to your point, it did seem like she was. But then she gets home and she vomits and proceeds to scrub her skin raw. And when she exits the shower, there is someone in her room dressed in all black from head to toe who quickly leaves. And she calls Willow to let her know. And Knox sends Steele.
I love this. I love Grayson's little plan to like humiliate her earlier. All it did was get Steele interested. So now Steele's like, all right,
I'll go
I'll
get
go
her.
get her.
Yeah.
And Violet's expecting Grayson to
Yeah.
come,
Mhm.
and Steele shows up. What a
Mhm.
surprise.
But it makes so much sense because Knox and Steele were friends before Grayson.
Yes.
Grayson's brand new to this team.
Yes.
Like Knox and Steele have been playing together for years, so they have a good friendship. So
Yeah.
it makes sense that he would go to Steele and be like,
Yes.
let's, go pick her up.
And I love just Grayson's little plan is starting to unravel.
Yes. Yes. Steele picks her up and brings her back to the guy's place, which is basically like it's not a frat house, but it's like a college boys' house. So there's several guys living in this house. Grayson gets jealous.
Yeah, he's not having it when she walks in with Steele.
Yeah. And he makes Violet come to his room where she discovers his one and only weakness, which is a photo album with photos of him with his mom. And again, we see more of the obsession here. He has been stalking her past. He's been looking up her Instagram. They had sold her family home that she grew up in, and he went on to the internet and looked up the sale photos of the home and found her room. And this is fucking heavy shit.
He is so, and I think too, he's really had everything handed to him his whole life. And I think this is the first thing that he's actually ever wanted. And
Mm,
he is now an adult and just doesn't know how to handle it.
absolutely.
And he's really spiraling.
Yeah, absolutely. He asks Violet why she didn't call him, to which she's like, "Well, you don't even like me."
And also, I thought it was you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why would I call you when you were just in my room?
Yeah. He grabs her by the throat and bites at her lip when they were essentially face fucking her because she didn't have a ton of control in the end. It made her lips bleed. And now he's reopening that wound. He rips her clothes up, lifts her up, and fucks her hard against the wall. And he describes her running her nails down his back, and he describes her orgasm before he comes. What pages is that on?
That is 136 to 138. I love when a man just can't even contain himself.
Yeah.
And in that scene, ripping literally tears her underwear to shreds,
Mhm.
rips it off
Yes.
of her.
Yeah.
He cannot contain himself.
Yeah.
And I did really like that.
Yeah. Grayson, after the scene, makes them rejoin the party without her cleaning up. He says he wants everyone to know what they just did and who she belongs to. So he makes her go downstairs to return to the party without peeing or cleaning up or
With his
anything.
cum inside her because he fucks her raw.
He has her sit on his lap on the couch. Everybody is watching a movie downstairs. And then he covers them up with a blanket and he fingers her to orgasm under this blanket with everyone around them. And then makes her suck his fingers after she comes. So it has his cum and her cum on his fingers. Violet is resigned, not necessarily attached as much as she's just too tired to fight it. And I said here, I don't blame her.
No, no, he's the one thing that is nice. He is giving her pleasure. We have seen in some other ones where the guy will continue to come and not
Mhm.
let her, wants her to know that he is the only one who
Yeah.
can provide that level of
Satisfaction.
yes.
Yeah. The next day, the director of Violet's previous ballet company, Mia, offers Violet an opportunity to meet with a doctor whose expertise is in physical rehabilitation of dancers, and they make a plan to meet in a few weeks. During this time, Grayson is summoned to a dinner with his father, who is, as Nicole said, a powerful senator. And he warns Grayson to be on his best behavior. And Grayson knows that the only reason that his dad asked him out is for this publicity stunt. So he's raging.
Yeah.
Grayson gives his dad a lot of credit for how his dad raised him, but simultaneously fucking hates this guy.
Yes.
Cannot stand his dad. To blow off some steam, he surprises Violet while she's at the gym and tells her to run. You love a running scene. You
She
liked
does.
it with Vane.
I know I did.
You don't this
You
year.
can tell that I like a little, I guess, of that fear,
Mm,
but you know that she likes this because she had originally said, if you can find me,
yeah.
I'll see if you can find me.
Yeah.
So you can tell that she likes that cat and mouse thing.
Yes.
And
There are so many challenges that I didn't get all of them. I missed this one. But yes,
yeah,
you're right. She does text him, "You can have me if you can find me." And he does find her.
he does.
He tells her that he will fuck her wherever he catches her. She rushes into a wooded park and he catches her on one of the paths. And this scene is gruesome. So if you have any type of triggers about physical abuse, you should not listen to this. He attacks her from behind. He holds her down on the ground from behind. And at one point, while she's fighting and resisting him, he slams her head into the ground so hard that she sees stars with her hair. He pulls her legging down and starts to fuck her from behind. She breaks away, but he catches her again and pushes her up against a tree where he continues to fuck her until he comes. He sends her home with his jacket and instructs her not to make herself come. So she didn't get to come, and he's telling her, don't touch yourself.
Yeah. And that is
Hinges.
from 179 to 181. As I just said that he's making sure she always comes,
Mhm.
now he doesn't.
These two are testing each other.
Yeah.
He's testing her.
Yeah.
And he knows. Later on in the book, there's another scene where they talk about, I know you're the type of girl that if I tell you not to make yourself come, that you'll listen.
Yeah.
And she says, you're right. This is a well-written scene. It wasn't one that I got like a lot of pleasure reading personally,
Same.
just because of the sheer aggression. I like a little bit of pain. This was more than I would have normally liked. The next day, an article breaks about Violet and Grayson. So she has this NDA in place, and there are these articles leaking because he's the senator's son. And so there's hypothetically kind of blood in the water now. Like there's something for these reporters and these anonymous sources to sort of report on. And so this article breaks about the accident and about Grayson and Violet's relationship. There's a photo of them at the party from the previous night. And she texts Grayson and lets him know it wasn't her because she doesn't want to get in trouble because of the NDA. And he responds, I know. However, Paris, who Nicole referenced earlier, who is jealous of Violet, confronts her in the cafeteria over this article.
Paris has been telling everybody that Grayson is her boyfriend and they're dating.
Yeah. Even though Grayson is like,
he says that she's like a nice place to put a stick.
yeah. Well, Paris decides that she's going to confront Violet in the cafeteria, and Violet gets another drink poured on her head. But this time she fights back and she slaps Paris, who storms across the cafeteria, gets onto Grayson's lap, and starts to make out with him. And Violet is like, I'm going to be the bigger person. I'm just going to leave. The entire cafeteria claps, which I didn't quite understand.
Right.
But while she's leaving, she notices that even though Grayson is making out with Paris, he's like, I fucking her.
Yes.
From across the cafeteria. And this same day, the coach confronts Grayson about the article and insists on he and Violet speaking with a publicist about it, which I loved because it feels a little bit initially like, God, this guy just fucking gets away with everything. But this coach is not taking any fucking shit.
No.
And he's like, your fucking ass is mine.
Well, he says, like, is this true? And Grayson's having to deny it. And he even acknowledges that he doesn't think the coach buys it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I love it. It was kind of, I don't know, it felt like he was getting his comeuppance.
Yes.
Except that
And he's just blame it on Violet.
Mm-hmm. That night, while at a sleepover, Grayson breaks in to this friend of Violet's house where they're having the sleepover at. And he tapes Violet's mouth shut and he handcuffs her hands to the leg of a couch. So all of the girls are asleep in this living room. So there's somebody sleeping on the couch. There's somebody sleeping next to Violet. They're all like on the floor. This is like a full-blown girly sleepover. He holds her nose off and on, again with the breath play, and while he fucks her. And then he removes the tape and she's like fighting him. And he dares her to scream and wake everyone up. And when she doesn't, he continues and makes her come.
Well, he says, even if you scream and they wake up, I'm still fucking you.
It's interesting because she does in her mind say to herself, there are a million women here. I can scream through the tape. I can them all up. And she's like, but I don't. I God help me, I don't.
Yeah.
Basically.
And I'm sorry. I am such a light sleeper. I would have woken up.
Oh, I feel like there were people awake.
But if I'm seeing she's handcuffed, he has his hands over her mouth. If I see that, I'm getting up. My friend is clearly being assaulted.
I think that these two are just probably known by all of their friend group for being people who have sex in inappropriate places. Because this is not the only scene. The part where he's fingering her on the couch, there's absolutely no way that everybody watching that movie didn't.
But at least they were drunk then.
Yeah, I suppose.
These are girls having a cute sleepover, and one of them's just getting fucked.
Yeah, no, I know you're totally right.
If you woke up and you saw this happening to me, you'd be like, she's liking it.
Well, I
I'm
I
handcuffed and
honestly
my
don't
nose is
know.
plugged and
Well, you can't see, it's dark. So I wouldn't be able to
how dark?
see. I would just be able to, like, basically hear you having sex, in which case I genuinely think I probably would just put the pillow over my head and just, like, pretend that I didn't hear it because
This bitch is on her
I
own,
don't Yes.
whether she likes it or not.
Yes.
I'm not trying to be next,
I would
and she may be enjoying it.
I would wake up in the middle of the night hearing it happen. I would be disoriented because 'cause I'm sleeping. I wake up, I hear it's happening. I'm not gonna look. I'm just gonna
You
be
wouldn't?
like,
Oh, I would look.
"No." I'm just gonna be like, "Oh my god. Fucking Nicole is getting fucked right now in the middle of the living room. It's so rude." And then I'm covering my head, and I'm not gonna get involved. I just and especially with these 2,
Oh
because
my
I
god.
just at a party the other day where he was fingering her while we were watching a movie, so I'm definitely not looking or getting
I
involved.
suppose that is true. A lot of these girls were probably at that party too,
Yeah, for sure. The dance team and the hockey players hang out a lot.
which is interesting because the dance team dances for football.
I think they're just, like, attached to players, like,
Who wouldn't be?
honestly.
Hockey players trump football players
Now I know that.
and
I
baseball players.
and baseball players. It's noted. I take it all back. I'll never forgive myself. What page is that from?
That is from 214 to 217.
Hmm. I actually really liked that scene.
Of course you did. Ugh. Maybe you like to be watched.
I do like to be watched.
Oh, shoot. If we are drunk and coming home and Dave is feeling frisky, he'll do it up against the garage. Can't
Oh my
leave it inside
god.
and in our backyard.
Oh my god,
Yeah.
Nicole.
So it's so funny
You
the
did
differences.
you did tell me a story about a little vehicle ride
I
once.
did.
Yeah.
On the way home from Grandpa's,
Oh my god.
it's probably a 6-hour drive.
Oh my
That
god.
is a long time.
To
What
go
else?
without having sex?
Just in general, what else are you gonna do? We listen to my audiobooks,
Sure.
but after that, I mean, listening to A Court of Silver Flames,
Mhm.
I'm riled.
I hear you.
So, Dave's there. So, on the
Oh,
freeway,
lucky Dave.
just give him a hand job.
Put in the best part, that Nicole is driving.
Oh, yeah, I'm the one driving, by the way. He's the passenger.
Oh
Not a roadhead thing.
my god.
I'm
What a
driving.
fucking gangster. One-handed steering wheel
Yeah,
while you give a hand job.
yeah.
It's absolutely incredible.
When
I
the moment
love it.
hits, it hits.
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah. Hopefully he returned the favor when you got home. So the day of the meeting with the publicist, Grayson meets Violet outside of her apartment long before the meeting. He pulls her into his car. He holds her down. He cuts her leggings open and cuts her thigh with a knife, then proceeds to suck, bite, and lick the cut, which makes Violet crazy. She's like begging him to fuck her, but he refuses to give her what she wants.
We forgot to mention that at the night before, he actually gave her a safe word that she could have at any time that any of these things are happening now been using.
Oh, you're right. The safe word is stop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she refuses. She'll
And
say
she
fuck off, she'll say get away, but she will not use that safe word. So he knows, and we as the readers know that even I mean, he's cutting her up with a knife and she's still having it.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. She is a participant. It's not being done to her. So that's a really good point. The meeting with the publicist goes badly. Violet gets up and leaves before it's over. And we don't really know what's going to happen. It's very clear that Grayson has a plan. Violet and Willow have made arrangements to get Violet to her appointment, which is out of state with Mia's recommended doctor. And actually, I say Violet and Willow, but it was really just Willow. Willow put this together because Willow is an excellent friend. They are going to go to the away game of the boys' hockey team. And in order to get there, they have to travel on the bus with the hockey team. At this point, she is explicitly avoiding Grayson after the publicist interview. Unfortunately, he's not taking no for an answer. She gets on the bus, starts chatting it up with some guys on the bus, and he pulls her to the back of the bus and pulls her onto his lap because the thought of her talking to anyone else is too distracting and throwing him out of the zone before the big gate. The realization of his jealousy makes him mad, and he punishes Violet by fingering her on this very public bus. She orgasms and he licks his fingers clean. And the entire time, he's whispering like dirty thoughts in her ear. And this scene is, again, like he doesn't know what to do with his feelings.
Yeah. No,
He,
he really doesn't.
I mean, I think he's overwhelmed with his feelings. And I think that this is just his coping mechanism, which is very unhealthy.
Yes.
Anybody is wondering.
Yes, it is.
You, as a woman, are not his fucking pacifier. Violet shows up to the game late after taking a cab to her doctor's appointment. And when she returns, Grayson is benched. She texts him why, and he explains because he's been playing nonstop. She dares him to get his hands bloody, and she will tell him all her secrets, to which she earns the nickname Violent from Grayson. Grayson accepts her challenge, and he doesn't start the fight, but he does end the fight
Yeah, he gets his hands bloody.
with a rival hockey player, and he fucks up his hands. They have to be like wrapped in gauze
Yeah.
because they're so bad. He collects his winning by making Violet stay until everyone else has left and the Zamboni has cleaned the ice. He skates until the lights go out, and then he skates up to her in the dark, surprising her with the spray from his skates in the dark. He leans her back on the team's bench and he starts having sex with her. He's biting her and kind of, she's, I think, in this moment, if I'm remembering correctly, she's like, go harder, I want more, I want.
Yes.
And he's not being rough enough. At one point in this, like when they're skating around, she says to him, I don't want you to be nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they're in the scene and she squeezes his injured knuckles and he moves her to the ice where he continues to fuck her. When she refuses to say his name, he comes and then edges her by playing with her clit until she can't stand it anymore and she has to do it on her own. She makes herself come. And while she is orgasming, he shoves his fingers inside of her to draw it out.
That was hot.
It was a very hot scene.
Yes.
For the pages on that one.
That is 286 to 289.
Explaining that felt chaotic because it was chaotic.
It was chaotic, but
Mhm.
yeah, sexy.
Well, and the thing about this
It's another public scene.
it is another public scene, but again, he literally just like he picks her up off the ice with his fingers still inserted inside of her, like
Yes.
basically picks her up by her like pelvic bone and then sets her on the ice with her pants down around her ankles and then just skates away and leaves her there.
Yep.
Like this guy is not a fucking gentleman at all.
No.
I love to play like this. I would play like this happily. I want you to dote on me when we're not playing like this.
Sure. You like the role play. He likes to actually fuck with her life.
Yeah. That night, Grayson tests Violet by having Steele apologize for him. So he's kind of like, oh, Grayson is a psycho and he made me let you suck my dick.
Yeah, right.
And
Okay.
she passes with flying colors when she doesn't throw Grayson under the bus.
She's like, it's okay. Like, we like to play with each other.
Yeah, we like to fuck with each other. Then she realizes that it was a test, that Grayson was there listening. And she decides that she's just going to let loose. And she does some Molly with her friends.
It sounds like such a fucking good time.
It really does.
Like, when he gets to her, she's like, it's only been like 30 minutes. What are you doing? He's like, it's 4 a.m. You've been
Yes.
dancing for 6 hours.
Yes. Yes. She's clearly having the time of her life. And I love that for her. Grayson takes her home. He throws her over his shoulders, takes her back to his place. And I'd say he's like almost being sweet because she's kind of trying to seduce him. And he's like, you're not up for that right now.
He's got to be a gentleman. He wants to know what happened to her. And he's trying to have a serious talk. And then she just gets pissed.
He wants to know her secrets. He wants to know where she was. He wants to know what's going on. She won't tell him. He's rearranged her hotel reservation so that her reservation is with him. And he's like almost kind of like nurturing. He's untying her boots and taking her shoes off and grabbing her leg to kind of help her. And she uses her safe word and says stop. And he does immediately.
Yeah.
He really, really wants to know what is bothering her, so he calls for a truce. And Violet is rightfully so skeptical of
Yeah.
it, but eventually accepts. And they hug, and she literally just like cries it out. He
Right.
just holds her while she cries it out.
Yeah. No
This scene
sex.
is hilarious because it's from his point of view.
Yeah.
And he's like, I don't know. He's like, I've never had to comfort a crying woman before. Like, well, if you were a human being, it would seem pretty easy. But they sleep together that night in the same bed, sans sex. And the next morning, Grayson wakes Violet up in the best possible way. He kisses up her leg and starts to finger her, starting with one finger and then adding another, while he's also going down on her, and then decides to fuck her awake. And they have,
Great morning sex. You know I love that.
you do love morning sex.
And that is from 320 to 323.
The next day, the article is released by the publicist, and it really just sort of paints Violet as a psycho who is like obsessed with Grayson and can't let him go. And at the same time that this is kind of happening, Grayson's dad's receptionist calls Violet and tells her that they will cover the cost of her physical therapy if she stops talking to Grayson. And she agrees. That night, she goes home and finds that her ex, Jack, is waiting for her on her front step. And she invites him in, thinking nothing of it, except that he then drugs her. And just as he's about to violate her, he is interrupted by Grayson, who kidnaps him along with Knox, threatens him, and then they break his leg.
He first made sure that Violet was safe in her bed
Mhm,
before kidnapping Jack. Jack says that he planned
mhm.
to assault her and videotape it and
Yeah,
then send it to Grayson.
yeah. And Grayson gets him confessing to that on camera.
He is a bad fucking guy. Like,
He
when you
is.
think Grayson is also not a great guy, but Jack is actually a bad guy.
It does make more sense though, because initially in the beginning of the book, Jack is kind of painted as like a golden retriever. It doesn't make sense that Violet would have this dark side of her and would be with a golden retriever. So Jack and Violet, they kind of had a little bit of a mask thing going together where
Yeah.
they were both a little dark, probably behind closed doors with one another. And she never, ever in this whole book, she never references their relationship.
No,
She doesn't talk about it. She doesn't compare Grayson to Jack. It's Jack is,
insignificant.
yeah. The next morning, Violet wakes up, realizes that like something is wrong. She can't remember what happened the night before. She vaguely remembers Grayson being there. At this point, she's fed up, which God, do I not blame her.
Yeah.
I'm surprised it took her this long. She goes to the skating rink and confronts Grayson, is like hitting him on
On
the
the
ice.
ice. She goes out on the ice during practice.
Yeah. And is interrupted when the coach is like,
That coach is not having any of that.
get the fuck out of here. From this point on, she completely starts ignoring him. She ignores him for a month.
Good for her. That is more self-control than I could have had.
Yeah, for sure. He has finally had enough, and he tells her that she doesn't call the shots. He hurts her into a lounge at the school and tells her to get on her knees and suck his cock, and is aggressive and once again includes breath play. Violet decides that she's going to get him back by breaking into his house and stealing his photo album, which she hides. He finds her and confronts her, and this is my favorite fucking thing ever. I got goosebumps when I read it. He goes into the dance studio. He confronts her about it. He says, "You have something that belongs to me." And Violet looks at him and fucking smiles. Oh my God.
Queen. This is how we talked about Winnie Darling.
I would almost say that I like Violet a little more than I like Winnie Darling.
Yeah.
I really, really like Violet. This, when she looks at him and smile, I'm, yes, bitch. Oh my God. He says to her, "What are you waiting for, Violet? You know this game. Run." She does. He catches her. He takes her back to the dance studio where he strips her down to her waist and he handcuffs her in the
Those
dance.
dance studio poles.
He is interrogating her about the whereabouts of his photo album. This scene was really, really hard for me to read.
Yeah.
So my details of it are probably a
You
little
can kind of gloss over it.
yeah. He uses a vibrator combined with breath play to make her come. And she asks him again, like just like fucking gangster. She asks him, like, is this your worst? And he pulls out a knife. He uses it to cut her breast and like licks the blood. And while the toy is still inside of her, he fucks her in the ass with a condom. He comes and gets her to tell him about what his dad said to her and their agreement. And they decide that he is going to pay for her medical bills moving forward, and they're going to be together from here on out.
That scene was from 399 to 406.
Yeah. She goes home with him. She basically moves in with him. While she is showering, Grayson joins her. They have really, honestly good shower sex.
Impressive, because I've never had good shower sex.
Yeah, me either. Him standing with her legs wrapped around his waist, and then he's also fingering her ass. What page is that from?
419 to 424.
And he like warms the wall for her.
I know, I did like that. He's in love with her
He
and
is.
obsessed with her at this point.
Yeah.
We know that. He doesn't know that, but we do.
Yeah. Violet and Gray from here on out continue their antics, antagonizing one another, challenging each other. And Violet is preparing for her first ballet audition since her injury. At the next game, Gray's father kidnaps Violet and her mom by taking them to his suite where he locks them up. And after the game, brings Gray back to the suite. And we find out that Violet's mom is a drug addict and that Gray's dad has been essentially funding her drug habit to keep her silent about the accident. Violet and Gray stand up to his dad. They proclaim their relationship to him. Gray punches his dad's bodyguard in the face and he takes Violet to the celebration party back at their place where he dances with her into like delirium, basically. They dance all night long, hours and hours until her legs are numb. And the party has died down.
This is your favorite scene.
I'm not kidding you. I read this scene and I text Nicole and then the next day I was still talking about it. This scene is so sexy. I can't even do it justice. So the party has died down, but it's like the late night of the party where everybody is sitting around like making out with one another and you know that people have like
There's still some stragglers.
like there's still a party happening. He starts making out with Violet and like kind of walks her backwards until she is sitting on their dining room table. And he pushes Violet down onto the dining table on her back and basically starts fucking her in front of everyone. And like Steele and there's another player on the team, like pull up chairs. She's like, I can hear the scraping of the chairs as they like take a seat to watch. And he's choking her. There's breath play. And Violet looks at Steele and is like, oh, Steele, do you like to watch? And like, it's just, oh my God.
It is a great scene.
It's such a good scene.
Yeah.
I reread this scene. I read the book. I reread this scene when I read the book. Then when I took the notes, I normally skim through my notes. I reread that scene. It's so sexy. I can't get over it. She doesn't get to come in this scene. That's the one thing that I'm mad about.
Yeah.
He spits in her mouth at the beginning of this scene, which you know that I love. The spitting in the mouth in this scene was not as sexy as the spitting in the mouth in The Haunting Adeline.
Yeah.
And the thing about it is that he spits in her mouth before they've even started having sex.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want anybody to spit in my mouth unless you are literally physically inside of me.
Yeah.
Otherwise, don't spit in my mouth.
I don't want it at all.
No, you don't. But look
That
I have standards. Okay.
at least you do have some guidelines around when the spitting can take place.
I'm a classy lady.
That scene was from 484 to 490.
He takes her to bed and they go to sleep. And then again, he wakes her up, fingering her and eating her out. And they once again have sex, biting each other until they bleed. She's sleeping and he's fingering her. And he's like trying different things while she's sleeping, and he's literally experimenting with her body to see what makes her like move in her sleep.
Yeah.
As much as I hate him, I fucking love that. Would you please learn me? Like, oh my God. Do you have pages for that one?
That one is 491 to 496.
Violet is still practicing for her audition. She's practicing very, very hard. Her choreography is starting to get to be almost perfect, and she's at the dance studio practicing again. And while she's practicing, a song comes on that Violet doesn't know. It's like familiar to her, but she is sort of unsure. And then she goes to dance it and realizes that she knows the choreography for it, but she doesn't know how. And when she's finished, she lays down just to like, "Oh, I'm so tired."
Yeah.
And Grayson goes over and he eats Violet out. She just gets fingered and gets to
Yep.
come, and he doesn't expect anything from her, but Violet, the queen that she is, she returns the favor and she sucks his dick. So,
And that is 505 to 509.
the morning of Violet's audition, she seduces Gray again. She is asking for a distraction.
Yes.
Again, these are, like, back to back. I'm surprised that this doesn't bother you because it bothered you in fucking around, so
It's only two people though
I
here.
haven't had any negative things to say about
I
this.
don't have anything negative to say about this
Oh
one.
my God. She decides that she's gonna seduce Gray. She pulls him upstairs to his room, makes him sit down. I love this where he's like, "What do you have in mind, Violent?" Like,
Yep.
it's so sexy. She pulls out his pocket knife, and she does kind of a little strip tease, and then she straddles him and cuts his chest. And then he takes the knife from her and cuts her chest on her opposite side. Then turns them around, lifts her up, and fucks her against the wall while they are, like, mixing their blood together.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that happened.
That is from 516 to 520.
I am not really into blood play, but the scene is also sexy, so
Pretty much all these scenes are really sexy. They
they
are two very sexy people.
they really are, yeah. With the exception of the scene in the park, I think I enjoyed every sex scene in this
Yeah.
book,
And
even
they're
the ones where they don't even have sex.
Yeah, because they're really trying to figure out what is best for each other and what works the best.
Yeah.
They're actually learning each other, like you said, and I
Yeah.
really like that.
I do too, yeah. Especially if you're gonna have this type of relationship, I think it's important. Violet auditions at the ballet company, and she makes it through to the last round of auditions. And the guest choreographer confronts her in the hallway after the audition, and it turns out that he was working with her the day that she was in the accident. He was having her audition for a larger ballet company, and Violet is terrified. She doesn't believe him, but also knows that he's telling the truth. And Mia sees this confrontation, and as Violet is leaving, she tells Violet, like, "Let's go get a drink." And instead of taking her to get a drink, she takes her to a cabin in the woods that belonged to her uncle, where she holds Violet hostage and basically makes her dance until her feet bleed. And Mia is, we discover, sort of the culprit behind. So there's kind of a combination of attacks that were happening. She was being attacked by Grayson, she was being attacked by Jack, she was being attacked by Mia, and kind of all of this sort of intermingled together and kind of created
This
just like
poor girl. And
chaos.
she's still just staying positive.
Yeah. Well, she's a fucking queen, so this whole scene gave misery. Gave
100%.
Stephen King misery. It was like, here's the
100%.
typewriter. Like, Grayson ends up figuring out where she is using a GPS tracker that he has on her phone, which isn't creepy at all.
No.
He rescues her, and the cops come. After this, Violet is put in the hospital because she is, I mean, she's just been through it. While in the hospital, Grayson's dad comes to get out of her who it was that was holding her hostage in the cabin, because at the time that the police come, they don't know that it's Mia, and she's not willing to say that it's Mia because Mia threatens to kill Grayson. And basically, between Grayson and his dad, they kind of wrap up all the loose ends.
Yep.
Grayson forces Jack to turn himself in to the police with the evidence and go to jail. And Grayson's dad makes sure that Mia goes to jail, and they just kind of clean all of that up, which if they're going to be good for fucking anything.
Yeah, exactly.
The championship game comes around. Grayson's team wins by 1 point, and he and Violet have a little quickie in the bathroom.
The scene that you love. I didn't even all I wrote is they fuck. They fucked so much at this point.
They really
I didn't
did.
get into the minute
The
details.
thing is that while they're in the stall having sex, somebody comes in to use the bathroom.
And bathroom sex is not one that I can get on board with.
No, I understand that. I know that you are a proper lady
Yeah.
and bathrooms and janitorial closets are not for you.
No. No.
So,
In the car though. In the car on the drive home.
yeah.
That's
No.
for me.
Yeah. What's the page numbers for that one?
That one is from 574 to 577, the last sex scene.
Grayson, after this, takes Violet to their new place. He has rented a little house, a little love nest for
Yeah.
them. And they say, I love you to each other, which is
Mhm.
huge for, at least for Grayson.
Yes.
I don't think anybody thought
I
that
don't
he.
think he even knew. Yeah.
There's kind of a prologue. It's just 2 years later. And 2 years later, Violet is dancing for the Boston Ballet Company, and Grayson is playing for the Boston Bruins. So they both kind of got their dreams to come true. At the end of her performance during curtain call, he comes out and gets down on one knee and he proposes to her in front of the audience. And she says yes. And that's the end. And
What a good fucking book.
oh, God, it was such a good
This
book.
is one, if it is on your TBR list.
You should read.
Yes.
Yeah, read it.
Yes.
We didn't do it justice.
We really didn't. We
Our
skipped so much.
yes,
Right.
it's just so, so good. So we wanna really quickly just thank Paggle again. She is just going so hard on our social media and our website. Our website is up and active. You can go on there and leave us a review. If you haven't already, please do so.
Bookslutspodcast.com.
We are on most social media sites at Booksluts Pod, so check us out there as well. We appreciate the support. A little about Sarah. She goes by her pen name is S. Massery, but a little about her. Sarah's journey started when she was a little girl, dreaming of stories and frantically trying to capture her dreams on paper. She completed her first novel, Something Special, in 2018, and she has been unstoppable ever since. Along with her dog Alice, Sarah Massery makes her home in Western Massachusetts. After attending college in Boston, Sarah had a number of jobs before beginning her lucrative career in writing, one of which was a worker on a dude ranch in Wyoming. A personal highlight, she says. She's head over heels in love with both chocolate and coffee. When S. Massery isn't writing, you can find her devouring books, spending quality time outside with her dog, or making an effort to bring a smile to the faces of everyone she meets. And her website is beautiful. She has a picture of her with her horse, and she's got some, I would assume, some photos that she took as well, which are also beautiful. I really, really like her, and I like the character that she wrote. So
Yeah, she has a number of other books. I've read a couple of them and she's a very good writer.
I'm going to read them. Also by S. Massery, we have the Fallen Royal series, Crown Point University series, which includes Brutal Obsession, Sterling Falls series, and DeSantis Mafia series, and Broken Mercenary series. So she has, I mean, this list right here alone is probably almost 20 books, and then she's got some on their way. Do we want to jump into ratings?
Yeah. Spice level.
Spice level, I would probably give this a 4.5.
I gave it a 5 after we talked about kind of what spice level means.
Mhm.
I feel like this was a 5 out of 5.
It was a very graphic book,
Yep,
and it's a very
graphic.
sexy book.
Yeah.
It really is giving spicy, sexy vibes the whole time.
Yes, very. Spice frequency.
I'm going to give it a 5.
Same. I also gave it a 5.
Mm-hmm.
Pros.
I'm going to give it a 5.
5 too.
Yeah, I think it was well written. The characters were really well developed,
Yeah.
and
Very consistent.
Mhm.
And even the side characters were well developed.
Yeah, absolutely. You could tell their motivation, even though they weren't even important characters to the story.
Right.
Mhm.
Storyline?
I'm gonna give the storyline a 4, only because it is a really good story. I really like
Mhm.
the story. I like Morally Gray. I don't love the abuse
Sure.
that was in this book. It's great once he kind of comes around, but early on, the abuse is pretty horrific. So, and I know that we talked in the past about how, like, if they're going to be bad, I just want them to be bad, which is why this got a 4 and not like a 2 or a 3.
Yeah.
I like that she just made him bad. He's not a good guy, and I really
Mhm.
appreciate that because, again, like, you don't have to be good or bad to enjoy this type of sexual relationship. So,
I've read some other, like, bully
mm,
romance,
mhm.
and he is one of the more likable ones. Sometimes they are so cruel. He kinda softens to her pretty quick, even though he says he hates her.
Mhm.
I still feel like he's not as bad as some of the other ones I've read.
Fair.
So, I gave Storyline a 5.
I want to update mine, give it a 5.
Yeah.
Can I change my
You can
answer?
change that. I'll
I
allow.
just like
If you're going up, I'll allow it.
while we're talking about it, I just keep thinking about Violet's story and just how well it is developed and just how great of a character she is, and I just I love her so much.
Yes,
I wish that the rest of the books were about Violet in some
I
way.
know.
I
She's
almost
in them.
I know, I almost wish that this book had been spread out into a series
Sure.
about Violet and have all of these things sort of happen in a like
Like,
a
A Court of Thorns and Roses, where we
yeah.
could have had the first book be about Jack.
Yes, yes.
Yes,
Oh my god, that would've been so fucking great.
yes.
But either
Hindsight,
way, yeah, this book was great. Yeah.
overall,
I don't give out 5s, so I'm gonna give it a 4.5.
I gave it a 5. This is
Mhm.
my first 5, and I would read it again. I
Mhm.
It makes me wanna read the rest of the series, which I've read a couple of them, and
Mhm.
it makes me wanna read her other stuff.
Yeah.
So I
I
give it a
wouldn't
5.
recommend this book to everybody, but
Same.
if somebody came to me and was like, "I'm looking for a smutty book and I'm okay with dark and I don't have any triggers," I would absolutely recommend this book to them.
Yeah,
Yeah, this would be like the one of the first ones I would recommend to them.
yeah.
It's so great.
Yeah,
And
it's a
just
very accessible book too. It's on Kindle Unlimited, which is where I read it. You can buy it on Amazon. It is on audiobook. You can get it at, like, Barnes& and Noble, Target.
this is a book I also read it on Kindle Unlimited,
Yeah.
but this is a book that I would buy a physical copy of because
Uh-huh.
I liked it that much. So
And I like to have series on
mhm.
my bookshelf, so I would
Mm,
have to buy them all.
sure.
It would
Well,
have a
she's
nice.
got 3 to be announced in
Yeah,
this series,
yeah.
so I we talked a little bit about reading Steele's book, and I'm excited.
That one will be an After Dark episode. It was dark.
Mhm.
He's one that did not grow on me.
Okay, noted. All right, well, we haven't decided what we're gonna read next week. We will keep you all updated. In the meantime, I'm Amanda,
I'm Nicole.
and we're Book Sluts.
See you next
Bye.
week.